So today I'm working with the Zoom L6. If you don't know what that is, you can look it up. I've done a video on it in the past, and it is a live track recorder slash interface slash mixer slash a little bit of everything else that it can do. Now I've replaced my Audient with this one, and the primary reason is because of more inputs. For me, that's more important. The Audient ID14 Mark II sounds pretty good. The gain on it is bad. Let me just say that up front. 55 dB is terrible, and it should be. I mean, as far as analog wise, it should be in my mind at least 65. It's sitting at 55. Now you can bump it up 10 dB more. And to people that don't care about that jargon, the higher the dB, the less you got to turn the volume on the dial up is basically what I'm saying. So you get more sound, more push from your microphone. So it was pretty bad because I had to turn it almost to 75% just to be able to get it to sound right. Now, this particular one I'm on right now, I'm barely touching 50%, and the volume I think sounds really good. So this one should not clip technically because it's got the 32-bit float um, built into it. So that's good. Now it doesn't have the analog gain, so you don't have that ability, but I really don't care about that. I'm more about does it work, right? In the end, that's what matters. And having the more inputs matters to me personally. So, does it have the loop back? Well, yes, and I'm going to show you that today. Now, this one works a little bit different than the Audient. The Audient used, here, let me show you something here on the screen. We'll move this aside. So, when you click here, you'll see that you have your inputs all the way to 11 and 12. So, very similar to what the Audient had, it has it. But you have to use 9 and 10. In fact, actually, hold on this microphone though, I should be using just one, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that might be part of the problem I was having with the doubling and all that extra. We'll see. If I move this back in, does it double? Yeah, see, it stopped doubling. So that might be good. Anyway, that's the mic. So on this one, you can see all these. So this one uses 9 and 10 to do the audio loopback feature. And to just show it to you, we're going to bring in here's sampleit.io, which I highly recommend if you're into sampling. You can find almost anything by using this filter here and pick different styles that you like and then apply them and then just hit the random button and it gives you various styles. We'll just use this song for instance, and I'm not going to be able to play a lot of it just because I don't want to get a copyright strike for doing this, but I do want to show it to you that it works. So I'm going to mute the mic for the purpose of not getting any feedback just to show you. So I'll just hit the mute. Okay, that's enough. I don't want to get again a copyright strike, but you can see the audio coming through 9 and 10. And now you have to set the output to 3 4. If you set it to 1 2, there's a high chance you're going to get feedback issues. So I would just be, I mean, mind you, you're just using it to monitor the sound coming through. You're not 3 4 is just an extra one. So you have on the Zoom L6, you have the 1 2, which is your primary that you're hearing. Even me, if you look at this strip right here, I can use the mouse to show you. You look at this one right here, you'll see 1 and 2. It's because you need that as your primary, right? But then 3 4 is an option. Now you don't have to turn it on with signal because if you do that, you'd risk that you might have some type of feedback. You're just using it to monitor the sound coming from the sampler, right? Or the sample lit, I should say, IO. What I always do is just put in Koala. Now, the reason why I choose Koala to use it over most anything else is because it's so simple. Just put it in, turn on the. Now, this is in AUV3. You can use this in the IA. What is it? IAA? Yeah. Which means that it'll be in standalone, which I actually prefer a lot of times on iOS just because I like to keep I don't want to save in two places. So when you're using AEV3, it almost acts as a separate device, right? There's the standalone version and then this other version, and you can save to the same spot and open up the different parts, but you have to remember to save in two different locations if you're going to use it in a separate location. So for me, to bypass all that kind of extra work, I usually just run it in IAA. You can do a slide over with it, and then you can still capture the sounds you want, which is the crucial part of it. So you're seeing my voice actually coming through here, and I think for some reason, and I'm not sure on this one why it does that, but you get whatever channels you put through, whether it's the first, whether it's the 1 and 2 or the 9 and 10, it's pushing audio through with my vocal for some reason. I don't get it. It may be it's probably a user error, and I'm being honest because I'm still new to using this device in this facet. But I highly suggest turn off your mic, just like that, when you're going to go ahead and record. Same principle when you're doing over here, just turn this thing off. All you gotta do is slide it over on here if you're going to do any other recording so that you don't accidentally record over something that you already have going. So just be mindful of that when you're doing your recording. Now, for the purposes of video, I'm talking, so I have to have it on or you won't hear anything. You'll just see me doing it, pressing buttons. But yeah, so then Track. Well, it's not recording my voice. Oh, because I didn't put this on. Let's see if it records my voice when I do this right here. Yeah, it did. So you can see it's recording my voice. Okay. So yeah, so you have to make sure you're not talking. Obviously, you don't have a mic on while you're doing that. That would be insane. Now, to hear it, to be able to hear whatever you record. So I'm gonna play this again. I'm gonna be quiet and I'm gonna let it record. That's all we're gonna get because I don't want to get copyright strike. So look, here we go. You hear nothing, right? So in order to fix that, you have to go down and change this back to 1 and 2. Now it's probably gonna bleed. So give me a second to figure out. So you see how it's pushing the double? Okay, so that was so you can hear it. I had to mute the mic. Just wanted you to be able to hear the sound. So you can see it works pretty good. Now, most of the time when you're making beats, you're probably not sitting here with a microphone. The other option that I could do personally if I'm using the L6 with a mic, because the L6 has a mixer more or less, you have the mute buttons so I can click the mute button. And I highly suggest doing that if you're going to run multiple sources through here. Mute whatever you're not using because it will pick up and you'll have feedback and you'll have, just the nuances of your voice in there. If you're breathing in the mic or whatever, then you're going to pick that up. So definitely use the mute buttons. You might as well. They're there for ease of use, right? Just press it, mute your mic. Now you can mute anything really if you want. You could turn on, actually, now that I think about it, you could turn 3-4 on. So let's say I got 3-4 on and I wanted to mute 1 and 2. So you probably won't hear anything when I mute this. So I'm going to mute it. Okay. So I figured something out. Check this out. This is pretty cool, actually. If you set this to 3-4, because there's two outputs on the Zoom L6, which actually makes this very special. you can run both outputs at the same time. So you could have one and two going like I do right now with the mic, but I also have three, four open. So if I press, you could actually run three, four at the same time. Actually that's really crazy because the Audient didn't do that, right? You only had pretty much, it did have a 3/4 output, but I don't think you can mute it and control it the way you can with this one is at ease because you have volume controls on here, right, with the mute. So you could technically have them both going and still be able to use your other channels if you want to blend in more sounds. So I didn't even think about that. The only thing is when you bring the input into this situation, you have to be mindful that if I slide this over, you see how I get doubles on the voice? So you're hearing the audio coming through with the mic into both 3, 4, and 1 and 2 on your outputs. So keep that in mind when you're doing this. Now, mind you, I'm learning too, so I'm learning as I'm talking to you about it, that that's going to be a thing if you try to run two inputs at the same time. And I think you just have to learn to use the board, right? It's pretty easy. There's a big old mute button right there. Just click the mute button. I'm not going to put a copy of what it looks like. I don't have multiple cameras to be doing all that where I can show you what the actual board looks like. Most of you have seen what the Zoom L6 looks like. I might actually take a picture of it or something and put it on the thumbnail or something just so you can see it. But you this is an easy to find device. It's not hard to get one. It's not hard to even find them on Amazon or Guitar Center or wherever you get your stuff. You pretty much can find it. But you do need to keep in mind, if I haven't said this already, that you need a SD card, a micro SD card, because that's the only way you can update. And you want to be able to update because if you don't update, you risk the opportunity of missing out on some features that could be there that you really need. And it tends to run better and smoother if you do that. So that's my advice personally, is make sure you get the SD card. Now I've figured out there is a technique and a thing. I may do this on another video that you have to do to open up this multi-track. It does not automatically appear there when you plug it in. Unlike the Audient ID14, which does, this one you have to do a little combination of buttons. It's not hard though. It's pretty much press the power button while holding the one and two signal button, as well as pad number 2 under the sound pads. So it's a little button combo. Once you do that, it puts it into a multi-track mode. And when it's in multi-track mode, then you can start seeing all your multi-track. And you only have to do it like one time and it remembers it. So that's kind of nice. Um, what was I gonna say? Yeah, so that's it with regards to that. So this is nice to be able to now not have to switch the channels out. That is a beautiful thing, and to me, that's a huge asset to getting the Zoom L6 over something like the Audient that does the loopback. Very much so, because with the with the Audient, I had to switch this out, and it was not terrible, but this is just better. Now you can route these things to other. So if you'd prefer to put effects on here, maybe you make one channel over here. Let me move this out of the way so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Maybe you make a mix bus and then route everything to this other channel. So you could do that. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, or not, maybe I am mistaken. Um, yeah, you could put 3, 4 up here. So you could do, well, no, because that's the end. So this is an out. So I guess you can't do that, but it's fine the way it is. I mean, honestly, you could have this 3, 4 be its own route thing and then route all the audio over to there by using mix bus. So because in here you can add a mix bus, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, you can do a bus send, or you can do that's just actually nice. You got a hardware send. I didn't even think about that. Never mind. So I was gonna say do a mix bus send, but you could do a hardware send and send the uh the 3, 4 into whatever else you want to. So that's actually better than doing the mix bus thing because that's a little more work. But yeah, so do the hardware send and send it to another track if you want to do that. I don't think this is the hardware. See, that's the input, so you can't use the input for that. You need to use this middle ground for your effects area, and that way you can send over through the hardware bus. So you still have your send. So AUM is, I mean, amazing. I do wish it was on desktop. I know a lot of people hate the idea of it being on desktop, but it's such a good application that I would actually buy it again on desktop just to have it personally. But anyway, this video could get really long. We could talk about it all day. You get the point. The L6 is worth it in my opinion, and definitely a better solution. I'm just going to put it out there. It's a better solution in my opinion than the Audient because of the mics, the mic gain, and the inputs. And then the outputs, having the 3-4 on deck where you can pull it up and mute it and all the stuff right there at your hands is tactile. You have less time that you need to go into an app and make changes. Everything is on board. You can make the changes pretty quick. Plus, you get a recorder. So if you want to record multiple instruments or multiple sources or whatever, you could do that. The other beautiful thing is because you have all these inputs, if you get a little if you get a little splitter with a USB-C cable, you could actually just run like your phone directly into it and record anything you want. So it's not really like you need even to do all this work I'm doing with the routing. Only reason I'm doing it is because to show you that it does work for the loopback. But if you don't want to use that and do the routing in AUM, just plug a cable directly in that thing and right into your phone and record whatever you want into Koala or whatever and go to town. Anyway, that's it for this video. Just wanted to show you guys this. Highly recommend the Zoom L6. And that's it. We're out. Let's go.